Good evening. Welcome to the June 27th meeting of the Millis School Committee. My name is Mark Conroy. I am the chair. I will start with our roll call. Actually, to my left is Mr. Wiggin, our Director of School Finance and Human Resources. To my right, Mr. Catalano is here, and Ms. Canestrari is here. All right. Denise and Robin will not be here tonight. Next, I'll start by announcing this meeting is being recorded and can be viewed on Mondays at 7 on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. All meeting videos are also posted to the Millis Public Schools website under School Committee. All videos are also available on YouTube. All school committee minutes and agendas can be found on the school committee page of the Millis Public School website. Persons wishing to speak during open session must sign in before the meeting starts. Comments are not to exceed 3 minutes in time. Individuals may not name students, staff, or parents. All topics for discussion must be limited to those items listed on this evening's agenda, and all comments must be directed to the chair. Committee may not respond to public comments. It shall be their decision to discuss issues at a later date. All times are approximate. And we have, this is Mr. Catalano's last meeting, but I'm going to hold and get through our action items first.
Let's get
Might be the fastest,
Second.
fastest number of votes he's ever come across. All right, so we'll move to our action items. First is to approve the June 13th minutes.
Why don't you make it? 'Cause I wasn't there. I'll second.
Oh, sure.
But I reviewed them.
Okay. Mr. Chair, person, I make a motion to pass.
Oh,
Yes, this is
your
my first.
Oh.
I'm like, you guys are just throwing me to the wolves. What do I say?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the school committee meeting minutes of June 13th, 2023.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the committee meeting minutes from June 13th, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
That was a lot
Aye.
of work. Aye.
All right, motion carries. Next, we have a number of approvals for purchase orders as we approach the end of the fiscal year.
So, before we start this, are there any, Terry, that you'd like to review individually, or are you, and Mr. Chair, I should be asking you as well, is there any that you want to stop and focus in on, or do we want to go through them?
So of the 9 purchase orders you have before you, 7 of them are budgeted. 1 is a result of a warrant article that was approved this May. And that's the wireless project.
Okay.
And that's the largest one there, the $65,000
Okay.
one. And then 1, which is right above it, the $11,800 for the IXL license. We have done every year out of a grant, and the grant has covered it. This year, until yesterday, I thought a small portion of that was going to need to come out of the budget because we were not expecting an increase in the grant and the price has gone up. Yesterday, we got some good news at a federal training on grants, and that grant may go up as much as 11%. And if it does, that'll cover that amount by grant.
Okay.
So while I say
How are you paying for it now?
we're paying for it right now, this year we paid for it by a grant.
Okay. Does
And
that
next
grant-
year-
Does the grant cover this 11.8?
It'll at least cover 90% of it.
Okay. And you have the other money?
And we have the other money.
And the year
We can,
savings.
yeah.
Okay. So, Mark, do you want me to stop on any of these? Or you want me to just barrel through?
No, I just go through.
I'll go in
and
order.
Yeah, and I think it can be one motion that just a purchase order, dollar value.
So, of all of them, I think we should do individual.
Okay, that's fine.
What do you think, Terry?
I think probably tonight, let's do them individually. I think in the future, what I may do is give you a total
Yep.
so that you could do them as a group if you wish.
I feel obligated where the way they're presented as action items,
Yep.
I feel like we should do them as individuals.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion to approve purchase order 23215 in the amount of $8,458.50 for ClassLink portal and services.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, you can do a couple at the end.
Sure, yeah, if you,
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve purchase order 22491 in the amount of $16,023.63 for everyday math subscription for grades 1 through 6.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve purchase order 22492 in the amount of $6,435.90 for Reveal math subscription for algebra 1 and 2 and geometry.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve purchase order 22489 in the amount of $11,800 for IXL license for math and ELA grades K through 5 and math grades K through 8.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve purchase order 23218 in the amount of $65,823.63 for the Oakers Company Cambium Networks XMS Cloud Hardware, Ocker Service, and Labor Tech Services. And this was a warrant article from the Capitol. It was part of the Capitol warrant articles
Right.
at the May town meeting. So this is not coming directly from our funding, but funding from the Capitol
Correct.
warrant article.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, this is my last one.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve purchase order 22488 in the amount of $8,107.56 for Wilson Language Training Foundations materials for grades K through 3.
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve, you just jumped around on me, okay. Sorry.
Number seven.
Purchase order number 23220 in the amount of $5,496.98 for Power School SIS hosting SSL certificate.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve purchase order 23222 in the amount of $8,220.08 for CDW-G for Juniper Networks Care Services.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve order 22494 in the amount of $7,671.75 for Renaissance Freckle, Renaissance Star Math, and Renaissance Star Reading applications.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Well,
Yeah, there we
Thank you
go.
both.
All right, next, we don't have to do the waiver for Millis Youth Baseball because we determined that back in 2016, there was actually agreement between the school and Millis Youth Baseball that in lieu of fees, they would take care of the fields.
that's right.
And they are doing that annually, so there is no waiver needed. Next is creation to approve school committee meeting dates for July and August. I know one that we're going to post for, it'll be a joint meeting with the school committee on August, or with the select board on August 14th. July, I think we didn't set a per one, but
Well, I'm not sure why we wouldn't be meeting every Tuesday for several hours. I think the work is important, and who am I to say that we, as a group, shouldn't gather in this hot library for hours at a time, just talking and planning.
and the number of times that you've done that in the last 12 summers?
Well, I think last summer we had.
Okay, the first 9 summers?
There were a couple summers where I recall if you and I, we were having pizza in
If
that
it was,
room,
if it wasn't,
solving teacher
if it
contracts
wasn't
at one point.
tied to
over
a
pizza.
teacher contract,
Fair point. I made my intentions known. It's up to you. You're the chair.
So we have, what, July 11th
yeah,
and the 25th?
yeah, July 18th, or pick one. Either like the 11th or you push it out like 18th to the 25th.
So we're only looking at one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 18th's fine with me.
Okay. Then we'll do the 18th, and yeah, and then Monday the 14th.
Okay. I will be away, but I can zoom in to
In the
the
August one,
meeting
right?
with
Yeah,
the
and
select
I
board.
confirm that that Zoom will be set up
Okay.
for them. All right. So those will be our 2 dates for the summer, and if something drastic comes up, we can deal with that.
Okay.
Next, consideration to approve end-of-year fiscal '23 financial report. Mr. Wigan.
Okay, so you had a financial report that was provided to you. I'm trying to get to it. There we go. And really, the focal point can either be the memo or the very last page. You don't need to go through all the detail. So basically, if you go to the very last page of the financial report, we start with a fund balance of $366,090. That sounds great. However, there is a final payroll that we have to factor in. That we figure is going to be approximately $133,644. So that brings it down to $232,446. Then there are encumbrances. Right now, we have those at around $37,000. That may go up, it may go down. But we really won't know that until Friday. So that revises the fund balance further down to $195,199.47. And then there are invoices that we have to pay but are not encumbered. And I will tell you that probably about half of that $89,000 number that you see before you are invoices for the town. There are $33,000 for the Munis software, for example. There are a number of fuel invoices that are significant. We did get a couple of significant invoices late in the year from Eversource and from Direct Energy, I want to say. And then there's a bunch of just small little ones that always pop up at the end of the year.
What are we paying $33,000 for in Munis?
That is 50% of the cost of Munis for the entire town. Right now, we are able to generate purchase orders from my office. That has not been rolled out to any of the departments yet. We can get certain reports. Payroll is still done the way it was done when I got here 5 years ago. There are a lot of things that I could do in RDA that I still cannot do in Munis.
Does the system have the ability to do what you were doing in RDA and Munis?
Yes.
So,
I need to clarify this.
I'm going to ask you a couple follow-up questions,
Okay.
so I may be bringing you
All
to
right,
water.
go-
Do you
go
want me to
ahead.
ask my questions?
Go ahead.
So we're paying half of Munis. What percentage of the work that you're doing now is being done on Munis, and or maybe what I should say is, what other percentage of the work that's not being done that should be done on Munis right now?
For example, let me take payroll as an example. We could be entering payroll directly into Munis rather than generating spreadsheets, of which there's probably about 30 to 40 different spreadsheets that we enter every week. Then send them over to the town so that the town can then enter them into Munis. That's one example. I mean, there are
But that
others.
seems to be one of the biggest time drains.
Yeah, I mean, the budget, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, the budget for FY '24, I have to generate an Excel spreadsheet for the town to load. I used to simply just load it myself in
And
RDA.
so why are they not using it to the full capacity on that end?
I don't know that I could truly speak to it. I would say that some of it may be, they've always done it this way. I also think that whenever, and I can't, and I'm speculating here, so I may be incorrect. But as best I can figure, they've never really been trained by Tyler Technologies, which is the parent company of Millis. We did do some training with Tyler Technologies last year. We stopped it because we found it was not going to be useful to us because we were not going to be given the accesses that we would need.
So I
but-
know that this came up in the winter,
Yeah,
and I believe when I was the chair, we said that it wasn't necessary for the chair to intervene and that you were having ongoing discussions with Mike and Carol. Are we back at a point, because I'll be honest with you, paying them $33,000 for you to continue to do spreadsheets is a complete and utter lack of time. And if it's because they don't know how to manage, or they're not trained, or there's a turf battle, that's ridiculous, and it's not money well spent.
I don't think I'll have to continue to do spreadsheets as I did at the beginning of this year. The purchase order system is up. We can encumber we can encumber all of our expenses at this point. And we've rolled out a process for that to happen where everything is encumbered. So those invoices we just talked about, those will be encumbered for next year. I think there's still the issue of encumbering salaries, and honestly, I've thought about a workaround. It will be intriguing to see whether or not the town allows me to do it, but that is essentially that. So if you have, ex-employee who makes $50,000 a year, then I write a purchase order against that salary account, essentially, rather than other ways that you could normally encumber it if I had control over the account. And then basically, as it's paid down, you have to pay it off the
Terry,
purchase
and
order.
this is, my comment is not directed at you or anything. That sounds ridiculous that you would have to create that work. And you don't have to agree with my comments, because this is my last meeting, but this has been an issue for a while. This is crazy. And I cannot wrap my head around what the dysfunction is around this issue. It feels like it is a turf battle, and it sounds like people are either incompetent, lazy, or they don't want to do their job correctly, and it's causing more time and energy to be expended by you and your staff, and that's unacceptable.
Well, and I guess
Feel
I would,
free not to
I would
agree
say,
or disagree.
I want to say something, and I want to say it, and I want to make it clear to whoever's watching, this is not a threat, okay? But I want to,
I like
so-
a threat. I mean,
so
We'll both go down in
people
flames.
need to understand that RDA costs the district less than $10,000. I'm not sure what the current cost would be, but it would be, it would certainly be well less than $33,000.
And you could do more with it,
And we can do
except
more
the
with it.
payroll.
And I think one of the hard decisions we have to make next year, as we look at another difficult budget year, is that if I can, and we have, by the way, maintained our records in RDA, so we still have a relationship with RDA, is that if we're looking at another series of difficult budget decisions, and we do not have more functionality,
Yes.
that if our options are to spend what may be $40,000 next year for not only half of the accounting system, but half of the water sewer district system and half of all of the systems that Munis covers, that we may be forced to say, we just can't do that. That
Which would be sad, because
It would be sad.
Because on paper and in theory, this is the way it should operate.
It should operate this way, and in Southbridge, we operated together on a system called KVS. Now, I wouldn't wish KVS on anybody, but the point is, we were able to operate very effectively together, and I had full control over school accounts.
I would just go
and
back and
I could say that in many other places.
I would just go back and rethink whether you need chairman to chairperson to talk.
We may be getting to that point.
Sorry to put it on you, Mark, but we've been dealing with other issues, but this has always been on the back burner.
Right.
And I think you've been a good soldier, and I think your staff has done a great job. This is
My staff has
nothing about
been
you guys.
excellent.
At some point, they have to respect your time and energy as a whole, as a staff, and it's becoming unacceptable. And if people need to be trained, this is a perfect time of the year to be trained. You know, get them trained when things are a little bit slower, and you can catch up on things, because come September.
It is. I do think that one of the difficult things that happens when you have tight budget years, and I say that in plural, is that there are certain things that tend to go out the window quickly. Training sometimes is one of them, and particularly if you haven't budgeted for it. And, you know, I know that may be a problem, and again, I can't speak for the town's
But
budget.
I guarantee you, on both sides, we're probably spending more money in overtime and other expenses that when you look at in totality. So that's just,
Okay, well,
Dave, my microphone was not on. Did you catch most of that? Excellent, thank you. I appreciate that.
so,
That was
yeah, I think the superintendent and I have talked about this, and it may be coming to that point of a,
I think you guys have done a good job trying to solve it on your end, and I don't think the issue is in this building.
yeah. But we're going to be going into the fourth year?
Yes,
And
it's
we can
time,
do- And we can do purchase orders.
which probably should have been done at the end of the first year.
Right,
Right.
right.
It's the payroll glut. I mean, there were a couple times when you were the only person and we didn't have access to you for a couple days a week back in the spring. And we
and I-
can't lose you. And it's great that you can cover and you're the backup. We can't lose you for that much time.
And I think one of the things that's frustrating to me on that end is that, so for example, the town's had difficulty finding a payroll person. Well, quite honestly, we're the dog that wags the tail.
correct.
And so if we were able to enter our own payroll, I'm not saying it'd be a perfect solution for the town,
You would save some time.
but it would seem to me it would save some time for the
I
town.
agree.
So,
I'm done.
at any rate, one of the discussion I was necessarily expecting to have, but to continue on.
No, I'm
So
done.
right now, we have a revised fund balance, bottom line of $105,805. That will change.
So this may just be a timing issue. My head's 109.
I think it's a timing issue.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
It literally changes it hourly.
Okay, that's fine. 105.
Yeah. So
It's
currently I
very
have
close.
105.
It's close. And do you need us to authorize you to do so? I think you did.
Well, I think there's three options, okay? There are three options before you, and how you break them down or don't break them down is up to you. So option one is setting aside some money in school choice, which when we have had fund balances in the past has been the traditional primary focus of this committee. A second primary focus of this committee has been to prepay tuitions. And largely when we prepay tuitions, we focus on collaboratives because we can pay 100% of a collaborative for the year. A private school, by law, we can only pay 3 months, but a collaborative, we could take a student and pay their entire tuition for the year and be done. And then the collaborative is obligated to refund us if for some reason that student, moves out of our district and becomes the responsibility of someone else. There is a third discussion this year, which we have never had before. And that discussion is whether or not you would allow some money to flow back to free cash. We do not typically do that. We've not typically done that in the past. But again,
We haven't gone to the town to ask for $900,000.
right.
So we're in a different footing.
You're in a different footing. So I put all three of those, and I put one possible scenario before that would do a little bit of all three, if that is the way the committee wanted to go.
I'm looking at the memo, the preliminary FY24 end of year financial report. I think, and I was not at the last meeting, so I know that there was some discussion about additional monies flowing in. So I don't, what your recommendation of the 50, 25, 25 seems reasonable to me, but I don't, if there was a discussion at the last meeting that counters that, I'll step back.
There wasn't one that counters it necessarily. What we did do is we opted to retain as much funding as we could in choice or use it to prepay as opposed to adding additional staff.
I agree with that.
And I could see doing the same thing with this. There's an element, and part of that rationale was to keep as much in our balances to get through next year to see how much we could not get into stabilization. So if splitting this 50-50 between school choice and prepaying allows us to not use, even if it's 25,000 of stabilization next year. I mean, to return 25,000 now.
The 400, instead of paying back 25 to the 400,
Right.
just prepay, because we know we're not going to have enough money for those.
Right.
It gives you more flexibility in the long run.
Right. For the next year to possibly, and the same thing with the 60,000 we talked about at the last meeting. There has never been a year that I can remember that we didn't need an extra $60 to $80 to $100,000 for some.
We had move-ins in May
Right.
this year, or April.
So the likelihood is that this money that we can save now, being truly saved by the end of next year, is probably slim. But if it is there, then it's just less money we take out of stabilization.
And I also think that allowing the town, and this was the deal we made, is that give us time to go out and look for supplemental funding and additional, and really work the phones. And Robin started really working hard. She was working those breakfasts and those lunches and the letter writing, maybe with a little more time and energy, or not energy, a little more time, it will work, and maybe we'll be repaying that 400,000 with funding.
Right.
So if you want a 50-50, I'm okay with, what do you think?
I agree about the 50-50.
You go with that?
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano.
I make a motion that the Millis School Committee authorize the Director of School Finance to transfer 50% of any remaining fund balance to the School Choice Fund, and to transfer 50% of any remaining fund balance to prepay out-of-district special education costs.
A second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
So the recommendation on the memo is different, so, okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to.
All right. So is that everything you need for the?
That's
You're right.
everything I need for that one.
All right. Chair report, MSBA project update.
We have 2 meetings. We have a meeting tonight, and we have a meeting tomorrow. We received 7 entries for owner's project manager. I reviewed them. Ms. Gibbons is in London for work, so she reviewed and sent her notes to the committee over the weekend. I reviewed them today. They're all probably good, but there were definitely 3 that were
Yes.
really good. And I think it would be a toss-up with all 3. I won't get into deliberations because we haven't had the meeting yet. But I will state, one of the group's businesses that did it was the one who did the Clyde Brown project.
Yep.
And there's some really good people there. I think getting that OPM on really helps because this is what they do. They go through feasibility studies and they get to the project. So once they're on board, it really helps the process. So although my appointment ends on June 30th, I'm looking forward to seeing this to the end and getting an owner's project manager too. And we don't have the final decision, the MSBA downtown does. So, but I think we're going to come out with three. I think it's three finalists tonight.
Right.
And then the full school building committee votes tomorrow on who to send to downtown. Yeah, that's it.
All right, we have no budget update. Then our last announcement, I don't think we've formally said it here, we've alluded to it, but we will have an opening on the school committee effective Friday. Mr. Catalano finishes his 12 plus years? 13? 13.
13 years.
So,
I've been on this committee so long that I remember when we just had paper. Now we have the Google. We've computerized. We went from what's the steamboats on the river to a motorized boat. We have come that far.
got a new building.
What did we do? We got a new building. We dealt with COVID.
Had air quality.
We had an air quality issue that was based on a bad report. We had, those are the three big things.
Yeah, and then just the normal.
No one has come in to try to ban a book. I was hoping you would have set something up,
Oh, we've had
even a
some
crisis
other-
actor.
So,
It's been a good time. It's been a long time, but it's time for me to move on.
thank you.
George. The whole venomous thing, that's you. Mark's
I'm
not
stepping up, huh?
doing it. Yes, you have to do it.
So, thank you. It has been a long time. Many hours. Starting with, if you remember, you were, I think, handing out literature or on a walk, and I was handing out literature for Richard Ross.
That's right, I remember.
And then coffee on Memorial Drive.
That's right, we had coffee on Memorial Drive.
Because I worked in Cambridge and you were working at Harvard.
That's right, and you were appointed, I had a run,
Yep.
and then we had talked about it.
And here we are 13 years later.
13, that's right, I forgot about that. Coffee right outside of the Microtech place.
Yes.
The Starbucks.
Yeah, the
I didn't
Starbucks.
drink coffee. I don't drink coffee.
Yes.
And
So-
we said, yeah, we'll be on for a few years and see what it's like. And 13 years later, I will say, you weren't asking for a speech, and I'm not giving a speech. I will say, I am proud of the work that we did on this committee. You have many years ahead of you. We work hard. This committee stays within the guardrails, budget and policy. We've laughed, we've cried, we've been angry, we've had fights, not necessarily within the group. I'm always looking to try to fight, even in the last meeting across the town field. But I'm proud of the work of this committee, of the admin team, the support staff, everyone involved. We've had more good times than bad times. It's been stressful at times, but I think that these schools, my son just graduated. I think these schools are well run. The learning that goes on, the community that is built is upstanding. I'm very, very proud to have been part of this committee and to live in this town and to have my kids before my daughter left to go to Tri, which worked very well for her. There's good things going on in these buildings, and I think that this committee and the admin team and the teacher reps, Ms. Copice does more for publicizing It's not an act when I'm still amazed at the amount of stuff that's going on. So I'm happy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm looking to free up some free time, and this will be a good move to give. And have you found anyone?
We will be taking I'm waiting, there's going to be a notice that will go out and people can write. I believe it's going to go to somebody at Town Hall, email with their interest in being appointed, which will be basically an appointment till next May when
That's right.
they would have to run, because
That's
your
right.
seat would be up, and it would have to run anyway, but this just falls that it would run for a full 3-year term next year. So it would be an appointment, so
So I suspect that all of the people that are critical of us on Facebook and on Twitter and at the ball fields, they will all step up. It'll almost be like there's too many people trying to get one seat. It could be an interesting summer because we know that all of those people that have very strong opinions and they know more than we do, right, Terry? You were texting me this earlier today. You said, please say this at the meeting, and I'm now delivering your message.
I do have to say, if I could say a few words.
yes.
That-
Well, Terry does.
Okay.
I'll give you your.
The last time I did it sounded like a bomb went off.
I know.
Stephen Catalano, School Committee, 2010 to 2023.
There you go.
It's official. I have to now. I'm going to be very delicate with my brick.
There you go.
Save this. We don't have a big budget for gifts.
I'll give it back.
This is true.
That was
Put it
probably
back.
the one we had Karen's brick
Right.
in.
Probably
we
was.
can reuse it,
Probably
fold it
true.
up, and put it in a.
Probably true. We'll put it in the closet, save it for the next person. So Steve, I have to tell you that my very first meeting, you may recall, I certainly recall, without going into detail, I remember leaving that meeting and thinking on my drive home, what did I get myself into?
Because of me.
Well, let's just say it was not exactly the meeting I was expecting. But I can't remember if you called me or you emailed me shortly after that, and it was the first of a number of times over the last 5 years that you have called, texted, talked to me, and you have been, I think, one of the few school committee members ever that I have worked with that has been kind enough to be a coach, a mentor, a confidant, a guide, teaching me the Millis way, which there is a Millis way.
There is.
There's
It's cliche.
absolutely a Millis way.
It's cliche, but there is a Millis way.
There is a Millis way. I mean, I teach my new staff that. I say, there is a Millis way. You need to understand the Millis way. And I like to think that as you leave the board, I'm going to leave, and you've not only been all of that to me, but that we leave and that I've been able to add the term friend.
Yes.
So I just want to say it has been a privilege and an honor to serve with you on this committee.
Thank you.
I wish I'd gotten a chance to say some things to Ms. Roach, but again,
Yep.
I valued the relationship that I had with her. I thought she did a marvelous job on this committee. And this committee, in the last 5 years, and you have a lot to work for, okay? But this committee in the last 5 years, bar none, including the committee I chaired, it's one of the best school committees ever. I mean,
I think we worked hard. I
Yeah,
think we got
we did.
along. I think Mark and I are friends, right? We're going to be seeing each other at UVA. Our kids are going to be going to UVA together. So
there you go.
I've made friends. I've always enjoyed our conversation. And let the record show, generally those emails were because I probably was going off on some tirade. And someone probably thought that I was being mean to you. And I'm like, Terry, that was for the camera, but and I will say this, and then the love fest can end. What you have brought to this committee around the budgets and the information, just the memos alone.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. I always wanted to do it, and I focused on it. It was on Mark. I mean, we could go back and tell stories, and maybe we will over an adult beverage, of the amount of time and energy that we would have to put in. You come to the meeting and you have it, and you give us the motions. You give it. That is not lip service. You literally have saved this committee hundreds of hours. You answer the questions. You take a question at 4 o'clock before a 7 o'clock meeting, and you usually get the answer almost immediately. So the feeling is mutual, and I think what you and Bob and the other admins have done have really stepped up your game, and I think you've made our job of budget and policy easy. And they're not always easy discussions, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to the town, and I thank you. The feelings are mutual. The fact that you don't like Islands in the Stream as the best duet, we can argue about that over a cocktail.
There you go.
All right. So,
That's it.
as Steve is
Taking
posting on social media,
I'm not posting that on social media. This is going to family and friends.
all right, that's all we have for tonight. So I will take the last motion of the night.
Do it.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Catalano,
motion to adjourn.
been moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.